Greetings, my dear friends in zones 4, 5, 6, and 7. It is such a joy to be here with you today as you begin to embark on a great journey toward leading your districts and your clubs. I have had the great fortune to spend time with so many of you and the respected leaders of your 4 zones. Let me humbly acknowledge each of these great leaders and say, all protocols observed. This year has challenged the world in ways no one could have ever anticipated. COVID-19 has changed the way that we work, socialize, and even celebrate. And finally, we're starting to see hope on the horizon. Hope for access to vaccines. Hope that once again we can be together in person. And yes, hope, the kind that heals our hearts. Yes, there are still some challenging times ahead, but the world needs us now more than ever. And Rotarians need each other to stay connected and to continue to take action against COVID-19. That is the leadership that's being entrusted to each of you as leaders in our great organization, to be brave and to be intentional with your actions. I want to share a story with you about when I served as a club president. I must say that I loved being a club president so much that I really hated sitting down at the end of the year. That year was 2001, and I was one of then President Rick King's Regal Eagles. It was also the year that we all know that was 9/11. Who will ever forget what happened on that fateful day? My home club meets on a Tuesday, and around 10 a.m., I started receiving calls and emails asking if our meeting was going to be canceled on that day. I knew at that moment that we needed to be together, to be in shared experience. As you know, I'm Canadian, and on that day, as the meeting began, we stood facing the American flag and sang the Star-Spangled Banner, their anthem, and we wept alongside our friends on the other side of our border. Our speaker that day was a young Rotary scholar who was heading to study in Poland. We very quickly changed the format, and he and I simply sat in front of our club and had a discussion. And he had the most profound observations about peace. The love and support for each other and for our American friends on that day was profound. And it's times like these that you truly feel the impact of the family of Rotary. Over the past several months, these are the same kinds of moments that have played out across the globe over and over again. Our ability to look out for each other, to weep together, to pray together, and to protect each other, both physically and mentally. You are embarking on a great journey, and that one is going to fill you with many personal opportunities for growth and leadership development. I am sure that many of you have heard this quote from Maya Angelou. She said, "I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel." That's the family of Rotary. I guess what I'm saying is be that person. Be the kind of leader who's brave enough to say and do nice things for your members and their families. They will never forget how you made them feel. And the even greater reward, you will never forget how it makes you feel. So a question. How many of you are nervous about assuming a new leadership challenge in Rotary? I suspect there's a few hands that may have gone up, and that's good. That means that you care. It's the same as public speaking. I think when you get too comfortable, you should stop doing it. Having a healthy sense of nerves, it keeps us on our toes, and we know that we're putting our best forward to those around us. That's what we do. I want to spend the rest of my time with you talking about something very near and dear to my heart, and that's the creation of Rotary Moments and Rotary's public image. It used to be that we were encouraged to do our good work quietly and not for recognition. It really has been only the past decade where telling our Rotary stories has become one of our key strategic initiatives. What we've learned is that when we tell our stories, like-minded people want to join with us. It's actually our greatest membership tool. Who in this room, this virtual room, doesn't have an amazing Rotary story? Each and every one of you has experienced the joy of a Rotary moment. It's taking it that next step and understanding that when you share them, you can help change people's lives. When the simple and the ordinary collide with intention, it becomes extraordinary. Rotary provides you with a platform this year, and a powerful one, to help shape how people see our organization. So, what are the stories that you have to tell, and how can you share them? The best way that I can express it is that you want to paint a story with your words. It's about putting forward the human face and making the emotional connection. Your lives are rich with content, and your own personal stories are a powerful way to connect with Rotarians and beyond. It's about taking a step back and looking at situations in your life and appreciating the lessons that they provide for you and for others. And then it's about sharing them. Imagine if we could engage our 1.2 million members as the greatest storytellers of our organization's accomplishments. Everything we do as Rotarians affects our image and our brand. Quite simply, our ability to tell our story in a compelling way affects how our organization is perceived. A decade ago, I completed one of the biggest challenges of my life. My husband Nick and I, we climbed nearly 20,000 feet to reach the top of Mount Kilimanjaro in Tanzania, Africa. It was part of a personal challenge and also part of a Rotary fundraiser. It took 5 days to reach the summit. The first day in lush forest, the second in thick brush, the third in low scrub, and the fourth day was like landing on the moon, craters, and no sign of life. Now, let me explain to you, climbing Kilimanjaro is not a technical climb like Everest. The battle with Kili is altitude. And for me, it was a journey to the depths of positive thinking. By the time we arrived at base camp, above 15,000 feet, 2 of our team members were exhibiting mild signs of altitude sickness, mild to medium. It begged the question, should we really be doing this? The summit is attempted at midnight, and it takes somewhere between 6 to 7 hours. It's done at this time because the temperature drops to -20, and it freezes the ground so that you can get better traction. Each group that attempts the climb is led by a team of guides, and this is because it's a coveted job because of the very precious tips that they receive. Now, this is where the story for me becomes very personal. As we set out that night with only a miner's light on each of our heads leading the way, I was torn by whether to feel exhilarated by the opportunity or terrified by the fact that something could go wrong. It wouldn't be until we reached ground level that we would learn that a guide from another team had died that night, and a 22-year-old man from England was in cardiac arrest. Our guides, while we climbed, they sang Christmas songs in Swahili, and the rhythm of their music helped to create a pace to our steps. Pole pole in Swahili means go slow. It was the mantra of the climb. You see, the best way to ward off altitude sickness is to stay very well hydrated and to take time to adjust to each level by going very slowly. Pole pole. Now, I must confess that I entered into this climb perhaps a little too lightly and without a full appreciation of the dangers. I suppose I knew them, but I was excited by the adventure and most eager to reach the top of the African continent. It seemed like we had been climbing forever when our guide shared that we were only a quarter of the way to the top. It was also at this point that our water, even insulated, was frozen. It took everything in my being to stay focused and to put one foot in front of the other. Inside, I was questioning why was I on the side of this mountain, and I had to dig really deep to stay positive. I was ready to throw in the towel countless times, but to what end? There was no easy way out. That last hour was the most difficult and required a lot of rock climbing. And it was just as the sun was peaking above the horizon that we reached the top. The sky transitioned from a thick carpet of stars to an orange tapestry of color. Now, I tell you this story because it's about climbing to great heights. And isn't Rotary a story that we should be shouting from the top of every mountain? I also see this climb as a metaphor for life and about the things and how we frame the things that are important to us. What are the stories in your own club and district that help to bring Rotary to life? As a global network of professional business and community volunteers, Rotary is a brand that unites the world. We simply have to climb the mountain and shout just that little bit louder. Each one of you are ambassadors of our great message, and it begins daily simply by wearing your Rotary pin. We see now more than ever that clubs that have good public relations are clubs that are growing. Public relations is actually one of our best progressive tools for membership, both for recruitment and retention. When we tell our stories, like-minded people want to join with us. It makes it so much easier to ask someone to be part of Rotary when they already know who we are and what we're doing. And likewise, there's such a sense of pride that's created within our ranks when we see our stories being shared. Members feel good about what they're doing, and in turn, we're all buoyed and want to continue doing more. It's a great way to keep our members engaged. If you've gleaned anything in the past few moments, I hope it's that good public relations is about telling our stories. You may, however, still be asking, how do I make this happen when I'm not an expert? Well, the first thing you have to realize, it's not your job alone. Good public relations is every member's obligation. We're all ambassadors of this organization. So how do we showcase what's valuable to us? Well, not long ago, I was in Chicago visiting my brother. We went shopping one afternoon, and the only thing I wanted to purchase was a gratitude journal. This was a trend a few years ago where you would write down 3 things a day that you were grateful for, the premise being that it would help you to manifest the power of positive thinking. I thought this was a really good idea. We were in a lovely little boutique when I found my book. Very quietly, I said to Nick, "Honey, this is my gratitude journal." I looked around a little bit more and then went up to the counter to pay. I watched as the clerk went down to one end of the counter and took out this beautiful tissue paper and carefully wrapped the book. He then went down to the other end of the counter where he found a blue box with gold lines, and he finished it up with an elaborate ribbon. And then he came forward to give it to me. He said, "I couldn't help but overhear what you said, that this is going to be your gratitude journal." He said, "I want to be the first entry in your book. I want you to write that the man that sold you this book made it an even more beautiful experience." He is indeed the first entry. So how do we showcase what's important to us? What's the packaging, the special ribbons that we wrap around Rotary to make it even more beautiful? We do it through public relations. We do it by telling our story. Rotary, a brand that brings the world together. And so I carry this message here today to say thank you. Thank you for all that you have done and all that you are going to do. You have already been touched deeply by this organization, or you wouldn't be participating here today. When you tell your story, you're inspiring your clubs, your districts, recharging their batteries, and preparing them for the year ahead. Thank you for your leadership, and thank you for being such a vital part of Rotary International.